But you have to wait. Hello, hello. Welcome to Friday Nights with Emma. Hope everybody's okay. Everybody's cooled off a little bit. Had a little bit of rain. Maybe it's passed you by, but hopefully your garden got a bit of water this week. Yeah. Give everybody a minute or two to join. Just give us a thumbs up, a little wave. Mikey's on camera again tonight, so say hi to Mikey. Yeah, tonight we're going to do some binding, so it might not be super exciting because it's going to be a lot of me just sewing, but I'm going to tell you all about attaching your binding, basically.
Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
Are watching.
Hi, hi, hi.
Leslie is watching.
Hi, Leslie.
Maureen is watching.
Hi, Maureen.
Dawn is watching.
Hi, Dawn. Hope everybody's got their grape juice to go as well.
Beverly
Hi,
is
Beverly.
watching.
Hi, hi, hi.
Kathleen is watching.
Hi, Kathleen.
Elaine is watching.
Hi, Elaine.
Tina is watching.
Hi, Tina.
Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Annette.
Hi, Annette. Hope you're feeling better. Oh, which reminds me, let everybody say hello to Pam Lawrence as well. Big shout out to Pam Lawrence. Hope she's doing okay.
Diana.
Hi, Diana.
Judith.
Hi, Judith.
Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Christina.
Oh, hi, Christina.
Dawn says she has gin.
Even better.
Tina says she likes the hair.
Oh, thank you.
Your Sarah.
Oh, see, thanks, Sarah. See, we went there.
Sandy. Ross. Maureen.
Hi, Ross. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Maureen.
Christina.
Hi, Christina.
Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
Sally Ann.
Hi, Sally Ann. Yeah, the hair. So I actually just got it done today. And it was Sarah's advice that I go from blonde to my more natural colour of white, silverish grey. So we're getting there. We're doing it in steps. So today was a little bit more silver. So yeah, that was on Sarah's recommendation. I think talking to Sarah, I think I'm going to come see you get my nails done as well because they're looking really, I think I'm ready. Anyway, binding.
Diamond is watching.
Binding. Oh, hi Shirley.
Joanne and her mum Maureen.
Oh, hi Joanne. Hi Mum Maureen. Yeah, so this one is I had a request last week to show binding, so I thought I hadn't bound this one yet. This is a strip quilt that I did a few weeks ago.
Lorraine is watching.
Oh, hi Lorraine. So I'm binding it in the same colour as the border. So it's this grey. Now, normally I would do bias binding, but this is just straight binding. 3 inches wide. I tend to do 3-inch wide strips because I don't like fighting with it to go over the fold. So I like to have it on the generous side. I won't go bigger than 3 inches. 3 inches seems to be just enough for me to have enough to go over the edge on the back and have a nice finish.
Sue is watching.
Oh, hi Sue.
Margaret is watching. Susan is watching.
Oh, Margaret. Hi, Susan. Yeah, close the door. He's out now. Monty.
Your Sarah says this week as away from Saturday.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Lynn said her parcel came today. The Dutch House panel is fabulous.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much for making sure I had ordered the right amount.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Even if I did have a job hearing you.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we had a moment. That's okay. She was shopping. I caught her at the wrong time.
Lorraine is watching from Kent.
Oh, hi, Lorraine.
She loves the hair.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm liking it. I think this is the first day. I literally got it done this afternoon. So, but yeah. I've attached the strips on the bias, but I will show you that when I get around to it because I've sewn all the strips I need together except for one right at the end. So I thought I'd show you that at the end when I get around this. It's all I've done so far. Literally, I've just started.
Carolyn is watching.
Oh, hi,
Christina
Carolyn.
is watching.
Hi, Christina.
Sunny and warm in Glasgow.
Oh, nice. Well, that makes a change from last week, right?
Barbara is watching.
Oh, hi, Barbara. Just move off.
And Joanne says she got her bee panel last week. Thank you so
nice.
much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Cindy
Thank you for the orders.
and Cheryl is watching.
Oh, hi Cindy. Hi Cheryl. So I'll show you what I've done. I'll always leave a tail because that's how I'm going to attach it to, around at the end, so it's a sort of a hidden seam. So I've got what, maybe about 10 inches of spare, and then I started sewing, and I go my seam allowance is to the edge of my walking foot. So I always use a walking foot for this step. So I've got my walking foot on. My stitch length is 3. You want to increase your stitch length a little bit, not the usual sort of 2.5 that you use for piecing. And I've just gotten to my first corner. I don't know if you can see because the thread kind of blends in, but I've stopped stitching from the edge the same width as my seam allowance. So you want this gap to be the same as your seam allowance or thereabouts. I always do 2 or 3 back stitches here, because if I go over and I don't find I've got enough, I can always just unpick this stitch here, and because there's back stitching, it's still going to hold firmly. So this is how we do corners. So you need to fold it over to the right, fold it on itself up to the right.
Gail is watching.
Oh, hi Gail. Right, so you can see right here, maybe, I've stitched a bit too much because I've got it at a right angle, and here isn't lined up with here. That's what you want to aim for when you're folding it over, is you want the edge of your bias binding to be level with the edge of your quilt, and I'd say it's probably only about 2 millimeters out, maybe 1/8 of an inch, but that is going to be enough to be a problem. So move my hand out of the way. I'm just going to undo this last stitch right here, if I can get to it, there, and that will ease it up just enough. I can fold it back a little bit more, yeah, and then that line's right there. So I've got that aligned there, and then I fold it over this way, back that way, and I'm folding it over until I see, let me hold this up for you, maybe you can see better. You want to be able to see the raw edge of your bias binding just underneath your fold. So what I mean by that is this bit right here. You want to be able to see that underneath your fold. So maybe about 1 millimeter's worth.
Jackie asks, have you sewn the sandwich around the edges, or is it the end of a long arm quilting I can see?
It's the end of the long arm quilting. So when I long arm quilt, I always baste around the edge of the top before I quilt it. So as I advance it, I baste the edges down so that the edges stay nice and, well, the whole quilt stays flat and there's not any wrinkles in the middle. So I always baste around the edge when I'm long arm quilting, and then I quilt over it.
Caroline asks, how wide is the binding to start with, please?
3-inch strips. I always use 3-inch strips.
And,
so they look like that.
And Maddie is watching.
Oh, hi Maddie. There we go. I'm going to do a little back stitch there. Yeah, so if I show you this bit, I'll go a little bit further so I can show you better. I'm just lining up both my raw edges along of my binding with the edge of my quilt. That edge is up against the edge of my walking foot. Yeah, and then when I start sewing all the way from the edge, so you don't leave a gap here. So your corner will look something like that, basically. Alright, now this is the long edge, so it's going to be a bit dull. So I might have to fill in questions. Please send me questions. Otherwise you're just going to be watching me sewing. Yes, so I'm attaching it to the front because I'm going to fold it over and I'm going to hand sew it to the back. So you can see I've got, from my 3-inch strip that I've doubled, I've got just enough to fold that over and to cover that stitch line without being too scanty, without it being too tight there. If you want to take a bigger seam allowance, then you'll need a bigger strip, a wider strip.
Christine asks, how wide is the seam?
It's about, oh, I can tell you exactly because I've got my handy dandy ruler. So it is about half an inch. Because you don't want to have it 1/4 inch because that's just a little bit scant to get everything in. I like to give it a good 1/2 inch. You can do more if you want to, but 1/2 inch I find is quite good because it covers everything up. You've got enough fabric in here to really keep all of that solid and together, basically. And that just happens to be how wide my needle is from the edge of my walking foot.
Lynn asks, do you not press the binding in half before you sew?
I don't, but what I do, if I'm going to completely machine attach the binding, I will attach the binding to the back first instead of the front, and then fold it over and sew it along here. But before I sew it along here, I will give it a good press all the way around to make sure that that is really going to come across really well. So I'll press it basically out that way.
Terry and Lori are watching.
Oh, hi Terry, hi Laurie.
And Maddie comments, this is the part I love to do, then the big gorgeous reveal of all the love and work put into your quilt.
My favourite part of attaching the binding, I have to admit, is the hand sewing it on the back. Because then you get to snuggle under your... well, at least if it's weather like this, not weather like we've had earlier in the week, then it's really fun to snuggle under the quilt while you're watching telly or something and just get that hand sewing going.
Are you saying our summer's over?
No, I think we'll have more. I'm optimistic. I don't think it's over yet. Because it did this, didn't it? It got really warm, and then it got cooler again, and then we got hot weather again. What's your on? Oh, and this is the other thing. Because you're wrestling with a big quilt, it helps. This is one bit that I do generally do on the kitchen or dining room table. So you've got enough room. You could even actually, if I had a bigger table, extend it so that all the weight is supported by the table. You don't want any weight straining on your machine. You want it to be nice and loose so it's free to go through. You don't want it hanging over the edge. You might struggle with it then.
Carol also agrees the hand sewing, the binding is her favorite part as well. And Diamond says we might have an Indian summer.
Yes, I love those. Well, like I said last week, autumn is my favourite part of the year.
And Christine says she likes to keep the quilts to hand bind in the winter cozy.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, machine bind, I'm nothing against any particular technique. Machine binding definitely has its uses. But it is nice to do it hand finished.
And Joanne says she uses the table and an ironing board to help with the balance.
Oh,
makes such a difference.
Good idea. Yeah, especially if you've got a really big quilt to do.
And Maureen says I have to remember not to hand sew the binding after a bottle of wine.
Yeah, that helps.
And Carol says she also puts the ironing board next to the dining table to take the excess weight.
Oh, good idea. Yeah, perfect. Good idea. Oh, I do have a question for the quilters though. So I have a debate. So when I hand sew the binding on the back, my between each stitch I would say is probably about 3/8 of an inch. So I do tiny stitches, but they're all about 3/8 of an inch. I've seen some quilters do them a lot closer, maybe like 1/8 of an inch apart. What is the consensus? What do most people do? Do they do lots of stitches on the back, or do they space them out?
Heather says, I like binding, but I struggled till I started overlocking edges before starting. It keeps all the layers together straight. Together and straight.
Yeah. If you've got an overlocker, I love my overlocker.
Debbie is watching.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Debbie.
And Susan says she likes to hand... Oops, sorry. Susan says she likes to hand sew. I've just done one for my cousin's baby.
Oh. It
was very warm, too.
Nice. What was the baby? What did your cousin have? Was it boy, girl?
I don't know.
Let us know.
Lorraine says she loves your cup and saucer pin cushion.
Oh, thank you.
She's being nosy, she says.
Yeah. No.
Carol says we just got the rocking horse out of the loft for the grandchildren. Oh. It's also the right height to take the excess weight.
Oh, that's handy.
Leslie says I go for wider apart.
Okay.
Dawn says I do lots of stitches. And Heather says I do 1/4 inch stitches.
Oh, that's a good compromise. Well, there's no right or wrong way. It's whatever you're happy with.
As the rules handed down by God. Bob Ross.
Yeah. Going to be a big one. So I'll tell you what we started watching on Netflix. Mum got me onto it. We started watching the story of Frank Sinatra last night. That's interesting. We were on they're really long episodes though. They're like 2 hours, aren't they? They cover a lot of ground, but it's really interesting.
Carol says her hand sewing stitches are just under 1/4 inch apart. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Elaine says I aim for approximately 3 millimeters, whatever that is in old money.
That's about, yeah. That's about 1/8, I would say. Or just over. Just about.
And Diana says I do lots of hand stitches to the inch.
Okay. Interesting.
And Susan says it was a little girl. Aww. Born Tuesday the 11th of this week.
Oh, well, congratulations. That's lovely.
And Elaine says Sinatra is one of her favorite singers.
Yeah. He's a good singer.
And Jenny is watching.
Oh, hi, Jenny.
And Jackie says the cup and saucer was a class at the shop.
It was, yes.
And she loves hers.
So I don't think Sacrawell's open for classes yet. The lady who organises them is still on furlough. We'll see what happens in September. I believe the farm itself is open, but I'm not doing any classes there yet. But that might be another class.
And Lynn says she just finished a cut quilt 2 for a great-granddaughter who was due on Monday. I hand-stitched about 1/4 of an inch.
Can't beat a nice baby quilt. Right, so I'm just going to show you a little tip that I do. So, because it's hard to know where the edge of the quilt is, I just use my jack to feel where the ridge is. So that helps me. That is now against the edge of the quilt. So that helps me to figure out how far. So I think I'm going to stop there. So that to there is going to be my gap. Since I over-egged it on the last one, I'm going to go slightly under where I think it ought to be. What I did on last one. We'll see how it goes. Perfect. So, lined up right along there. And then fold it over. So you go to the right and then back to the left.
Back and to the left.
Yep, right, and then back to the left. And I don't even undo my string there, my thread. You can snip it after you're all done, but I tend to just hide it inside the binding because I'm a little bit lazy.
Joanne says her mum does between 6 and 8 stitches per inch.
Ooh.
They are tiny and practically invisible.
Oh, wow. That binding is not going anywhere. Ooh.
And Diane says hers is about 19 to 20 stitches to the inch.
Oh, wow. Why don't you want to go? There we go. So I'm at the ordinary then with my wide apart stitches. I have to admit I have got some binding that needs to be reattached. I find the thread that you hand sew on the back, mine tends to come apart, and so that it just folds back over again. I've got a couple of quilts I need to fix the binding on one of these days. Add it to the list.
Diamond says you know that she lives in Edinburgh. My sewing room was flooded on Monday.
Oh.
Thankfully, nothing was ruined, but I think I should up my insurance. My husband was horrified when I told him how much the stuff in here is worth.
Mm-hmm.
And Annette says she's been watching Cruising with the Nolans. They were a support act for Frank Sinatra at one point.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, wow. Well, I hope your sewing room gets sorted. I hope damage isn't too bad.
Elaine asks, do you use cotton thread for hand sewing?
Yes, I tend to use just whatever I'm sewing with, but I would recommend hand sewing your binding on the back with hand quilting thread because it's a little bit more substantial, a little bit thicker. I'm just trimming the extras. So Gutermann do a good hand quilting thread. The King Tut one, or use the beeswax on it as well to give it a little bit more strength. And that's only because, like I said, on mine that get washed a lot, I do have some quilts where the thread has snapped and the binding is coming apart. I just have to hand sew it back down again. It's just getting around to it.
Christine says, you've got me thinking. I'm away to measure my stitches. And Kath is watching.
Oh, hi Kath.
Maureen asks, do you use double or single thread to hand sew the back?
I always use single. I always use single thread. You can use double. But yeah, when I was little, I always used double because it was easy for me to thread a knot, to be honest with you. But I tend to, whenever I'm hand sewing, I always do a single thread with a knot on one end, just like I do with hand quilting. I'll show you.
And Lori says she's been flooded 4 times. Yes, it does cost a lot to replace things. Definitely need insurance.
Yeah. It's on the short side, so it should be better. I think I'm going to up my stitch length a little bit, actually.
Heather asks, do you use ladder or I believe it's whip, W-I-P-P, stitch for your hand sewing?
I guess mine's more of a ladder. Hopefully I'll have time to show you. So I'll do, it goes straight down, in between, up through the binding, straight down. Yeah, so it's more of a ladder stitch. Although, yeah, it depends how sloppy I'm being. Sometimes it turns into a whip stitch.
Elaine says, I suppose the thicker thread means the stitches would naturally be a bit more spaced out.
The hand quilting is a little bit thicker, but you can still get quite tiny stitches with it. Like when I'm hand quilting, I can still get quite tiny stitches with it. It just means that it's a little bit more substantial and there's less chance that the thread will snap, because you've only got one thread really holding your binding down on the back. So if you don't use a strong thread, or like I have done in the past, just use a regular sewing thread, regular cotton sewing thread. If it snaps, then your binding's going to come undone, just along the back.
Amanda asks, what brother are you using?
This is, oh, good question. Innovus 20. Mum got this one for me. I think it was about the £200 range, somewhere between, I think it was £199, and it came with a quilting package. So it had the walking foot with it, it has a table with it, and the bag with it as well. Mum got this for my birthday a couple of years ago as my little take with me sewing machine. I like him. He's done well. He's not quite as powerful as my big one upstairs. And then the only thing I don't like about him, sorry guy, is when you turn him on, the needle starts in the left hand position. You have to remember to turn it to the second one to go into the middle. And I've lost many a needle hitting my 1/4 inch foot because I forgot to turn it. It's probably time for him to get cleaned out again, actually. I haven't done that for a little while.
Annette asks, before you start to sew on the binding, do you roughly work out the length so you don't get a join near the corner?
Yes, good question. I forgot to mention that. So yes, I do. So what I'll do, when all my strips are lined together, so this is the join. You don't want a join on the corner if you can help it, because it gets bulky and you won't necessarily notice it, but it's not the prettiest thing, and it is a pain to sew it there. So I do lay them out so that when I sew my strips on, my seams are not on a corner. So I've already sort of, you can pin it if you want to. I just kind of roughly laid it all out, and see, I shouldn't have any joins here either. And then on the other end, there won't be any joins. Yes, thanks Annette. Thanks for the reminder of that.
Christine says her hand binding stitches are about 8 to the inch. Hannelore is watching.
Oh, hi, welcome.
Leslie is watching.
Hi, Leslie.
Excuse me. Maddie says she's got a brother machine for sale, only 9 months old. I've updated.
Oh.
And Lori says, I have a brother, Innovis BQ2. She loves it. Good workhorse.
Mm-hmm.
And Jenny is watching.
Hi, Jenny. Well, Maddie, if you want to send me the details of that machine, I'll put it on my site and have anybody contact you if they're interested in it. Because I always get questions about if I know anybody who's selling a sewing machine.
Elaine says the dotty grey looks good with the bright colors.
Thank you. Thank you.
Katie is watching.
Oh, hi, Katie. I was hoping to get this part sewn before this started, but it didn't happen today.
And Joan says that I must feel like I've learned so much more about quilting.
Oh.
Or that there is so much more to this whole quilting lark. It's still all Greek to me. I'm just pleased you're using imperial measurements.
I do try and do both, because people do like both.
Sometimes. No, I don't think they do, actually.
Well, to be honest, quilting is mostly in inches.
Yeah, as the good Lord intended. And Lynn said she's also done that many times with her brother. That awful noise when the needle hits the foot.
Yes, it scares me. Now that when I go to sew, I'm like, is it right? There's always a moment hesitancy, like, is it gonna snap? Being conditioned.
And Katie asks when the large white cotton is back in stock.
Large white cotton. The solid cotton should be soon, because I'm expecting. For those who are a delivery of the foundation panels, and that comes from the same supplier as the solid. If it's the solid white that you're looking for, there should be a little bit left, but I am getting more of the Painter's Palette solid. If it's something else, just let me know.
And Maddie says, okay, we'll do. I'll have the walking foot and carry bag. And Sue is watching.
Oh, hi Sue. Right. So now I'm up to my corner. Get my needle up. So from here to where my finger is, I've got about sort of half an inch.
Kitty says solid white.
Okay, yeah. I'm getting more of that in, definitely. So hopefully within the next week, because I've been waiting for it for a while, this order from this one supplier. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, quilting frames. I've got 11 by 17 quilting frames came in today.
Or A3s.
The 11 by 11 and the 17 by 17, I've got one 17 by 17 left, and the other 11 by 11 ones will be in September.
And Jackie says potato for the...
There we go. There, so I managed to avoid my seam on my corner. So when it comes to binding colours, pretty much whatever you'd like. I have to admit, depending on the quilt, I thought this one needed to blend. So the binding needed to blend with the border, because you've got quite a bit of colour on the inside. I didn't want to distract from that. But I will often go with a dark colour binding, just to frame everything.
And then Elaine asks, what size frame do you generally use?
The one I've got, I think is 11 or 12. It depends on your preference. So if you bought two 11 by 17s, you'd have one of each, basically, depending on what you want to do. Mostly I like the square. I know Dawn had the 17 by 17. She found it was a little bit big for her, so her hubby actually cut it down for her. So it is changeable if you find it is too big. But I love the square because you can really get to the borders better than a round hoop. What time is it? Oh, we've got time. Just got to get around this long side.
Claudia's watching. She says hello.
Oh, hi,
and
Claudia.
She can't watch now, but she'll enjoy it on Catch Up.
Watch on Catch Up. Have a good evening. Where are we? If you really want to be pucker, I probably would have pressed these seams out at least, but just a finger press works just as well.
Diamond says, what is the wait list on long arm quilting at the moment?
Oh, let's see, what have I got? I've got 4. I've got 6 to do, as it always is. Looking to get the ones that I've got finished by mid-September for sure. Going back to my day job the 1st of September, so that'll make things go a little bit slower. But yeah, so worst case scenario, mid-September.
And Joanne says the frames are so much better than a hoop, so much easier.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
And Katie says, please can I order a square frame?
Oh yeah. They're on the website, swiftquilting.com. If you search for frame, it should come up. They're all listed on there, but at the moment the only ones that are available are, there's one 17 by 17 and then there's a few of the 11 by 17 in. Oh, and I don't know if you guys caught, there was a nice sale at Dunelm over this summer, especially when a lockdown eased and they first started opening. And I managed to get, this is what's on the back of this, some Dormer flat sheets, 500 thread count for, I think they were like £7 each in the sale bit. And yeah, Kaylee's a big fan. Kaylee was under this for a little while on the couch, unbound, but it is silky, nice and silky. This is going to be a nice summer quilt because it's going to be nice and cool and silky against your skin if you just use that. But yeah, so that's a little tip. A lot of people don't say use sheets for the back, but this is 100% cotton and it's a nice high thread count, so it's going to work perfectly. If you're going to use a sheet, poly cotton, it's just the feel of it more than anything else. The reason we don't use poly cotton on the front is because it's different ironing temperature than the 100% cotton, and it behaves a little bit differently when you're piecing it together. So definitely avoid that on the front. But if you need something sort of cheap and cheerful for the back, that would be okay, because you're not going to press it after that.
Joanne's put the link to the frames.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much, Joanne.
Amanda is watching.
Oh, hi, Amanda.
And Maddie says, good tip.
So yeah, so I was lucky. There was 3. I'm sorry, I'm afraid I was a bit greedy. There was 3 on the shelf and I picked up all 3.
There's more than one Dunelm in the United Kingdom.
I know, but still.
Kitty asks, please can you do a video of how you fix an old quilt? A wedding quilt from American. The backing fabric is coming off.
Oh, well send me pictures to show exactly what you mean. Because it sounds like maybe the quilting has actually been compromised. If it's hand quilted, because you only use a single thread to hand quilt, if the hand quilting thread snaps, then the quilting will come apart and it will start to come loose. But there are ways of either hand quilting it again or tying it to keep it structurally sound. Yeah, please send me some pictures so I can see what's going on with that.
That's sort of like CIS and Quincy.
Okay, when I get to this corner, I'll show you how I've attached my strips. Then we'll finish it up.
And Diamond says a really good sheet is better than some random fabric that you have no idea where it comes from.
Yep.
And she asks where the cats are. They are sort of disgruntled and they're sleeping, I
think Link is upstairs on his chair.
Yep.
Monty's on his scratch post. So Kaylee and Habu have been visiting this week. So the cats have kind of gotten used to keeping out of the way of Habu.
Where chaos ensues.
Yeah.
Kitty says she will do that. Thank you. And Sue is watching.
Hi, Sue. Yeah, Kaylee's not impressed, but I'm trying to get Alice to say nemesis. Hasn't worked yet. I'll get there. She'll do it. She'll do it for an Anne. Getting a bit frayy because this poor quilt has been sitting here for a little while unbound, so the edges are frayed more than they normally would have. Sorry, this was a little bit just me sewing. Right. Right, I'm just going to sew to this corner and then I'm going to put the strip on. So I'm going to trim that now because I want to show you how I've been attaching the strips, because I'm going to be sure. Oh, hopefully the strip I've got is going to be long enough.
Brenda is watching.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hi Brenda. Oh, hi Brenda. If it's a Brenda I'm thinking of.
Brenda White.
Oh, yeah, Brenda. How's the granddaughter? She's got a granddaughter too.
And Joanne asks, have you used brushed cotton for a backing? Would you recommend
yes, it? Yes. Michael's quilt, the green one, the bear paw, that backing is brushed cotton. I'm just going to be short, so I'm going to have to find another strip. Yes, it makes it nice, and his is well, it's old now, so it's all bobbly on the back. But it does make it a little bit heavier, and it is snuggly, kind of. I've done it with minky backs. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know where this lady gets it, but I have one customer who I long arm quilt for, and she has nice wide minky that goes on the back of her quilts. That, if you want snuggly, that is the best. But it's really heavy. Just so you know, I'm sure I've put some pictures on of her backing with minky on, but they feel fabulous.
Maddie asks, if you have a join in bias tape near a corner, would you stop and adjust the length?
If you've got enough room to do that, meaning you've got enough strip, yes, I would avoid it. Try to, yeah, once you've laid it out, if you find, because I have done it with this one, which is probably why I'm a bit short actually, I adjusted it so that I wouldn't have a join on the corner. I mean, it's not the absolute end of the world, it's just not ideal. There. So, I'll show you what I've done. So I've just put them at right angles to each other and sewn from corner to corner, like that. And then I'll just trim this off.
1 second, we got a few questions here.
Oh yeah.
Judith asks, could you recommend 3 fabrics to go with the house panel?
Oh, yes. I will have to have a look. I took it down from there. It's gone from there. Yes. Well, they've got the 2 coordinating ones that go with it, but I will also see which ones, which ones I've got that would also go, because it's sort of teal and pink and magenta, which I love anyway. Yeah, and last week I think we decided the glittery blue was quite a good one.
And Elaine asks, would you use wadding as well as Mindy, or just top and kinky?
So, it depends what you want. I made Alice just a minky blanket. So it was minky on top and on the bottom. And in the middle of that, because I long arm quilted it, I just used a layer of calico. Just to keep it from being completely stretchy. That was fine. That's a really warm blanket actually. But when we use the minky on the back, we also do use cotton wadding on the middle. It does make it quite big. I mean, you don't have to do that if you want. If you want a lighter weight quilt, then you can just do top and minky. It will be thinner, but it won't be quite as heavy as having all those layers. So, yeah.
Lorraine says this is helpful. Thank you so much. We'll talk tomorrow. Jackie asks, what is minky?
Oh, minky. Let me grab my... I think I'll put them here. Be right back. Oh, yeah.
And Elaine says she meant minky, not kinky. I know, I was just being funny. And Shirley is watching.
Oh, hi, Shirley. Okay, this is a bit I cut out. I'm going to need this. Minky it's like fleece. It's like teddy bear fur, but really soft. Some people, I know a lady who absolutely hates the feel of it, like she can't bear to touch it, but I think it's lush. And you can get it in just plain minky, or sometimes it has embossed patterns on the top, like stars or dots and things like that. Do this. Again. But yeah, it does make it really warm and snuggly. I have to admit, we've been loving our quilts for the summertime. Just sleeping under a quilt, 2 quilts is just about right. For when it's really warm, 1 quilt is perfect because it has that weight, but it's not as, it doesn't keep you quite as hot. Right, so hopefully that should work. Just want to make sure that's going to be long enough to go across. So that goes.
And Heather said she did a baby quilt backed in grey milky with embossed stars on it. Lush.
Nice, yes. Very nice. Okay, that will work. Right, so I'm going to do my folding. So I try to keep these level, so it's all nice right angles. Keep that together. That's my strings. Make sure that's not caught. Okay. We're on the home stretch now. Just shift this around. It's pulling. You can see how it sometimes, well, I think my machine needs to be cleaned out anyway, but it's starting to wrinkle the top fabric. So I'm just going to use my jack to ease it under.
Susan says she puts a brush cotton sheet between the Minky quilts instead of wadding.
That's a nice one too. Just to give it a little bit of body and to give it a little bit of stability as well. Because Minky is, at least the Minky that I've used on the backing, has been stretchy. Not necessarily a proper knit, but it stretches from selvage to selvage a little bit. And having that layer in between helps prevent it from stretching out of shape. Especially if you've got two layers.
And Leslie asks, what wadding do you use?
I tend to use, well, I've been using 80-20 cotton poly wadding, and you can see it's quite thin. It doesn't give you a lot of loft, so it doesn't give you that poofy quilt look. If you want that look, then you either want to use polyester or a cotton wadding, with a wool or polyester wadding on top to give it a little bit more loft. But for our summer quilts, definitely the cotton is nice, because it gives you that weight, but it's not super hot. It controls the heat a little bit better.
Dawn asks, is bottom line thread okay to hand sew the binding, and should I color match for a dark binding?
Yeah, that'd be good, because that's a polyester thread. That would be perfect, actually. Just be careful when you're tying it off, because if you don't do a good knot or don't tie it off well, then it might slip out. That's the only thing about polyester, is that it's quite slippy. You can piece with it, but the thread slides against each other, so it unravels quite easily. But it is super strong, so very good for that sort of thing. I use it for sewing my applique as well.
Carol says, love this way of turning corners right then left. So much easier than the way you've been than the way you're going. A real game changer. Thank you.
Oh, good. Glad you like that. Let's see where we are. Okay, so I'm going to get to the next bit easily. I'm just going to go a little bit further. Make sure it gets... I'm going to stop there, do a little back stitch, and then see where I am. Right, so now this is the join. So I've got my flap from the beginning. Oh yeah, there's plenty of room there. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this one straight across here.
Dawn says she's using it for applique, so I guess right there.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I love that for applique, especially because it's nice and fine, so you can hide it really well, which would be good for binding as well, and it's super strong. So what I am doing here is I'm just going to cut another bit of this off, actually, because I want that width. This is going to be extra. So I've kind of cut that square like that. So that's my bottom one. I'm going to lay my other one over the top so they overlap, and then you want to overlap them. This is the width of the strip, so I'm going to want to cut this one right there. So they're going to overlap each other by the width of your strip. Take the hair off. Sometimes I find it's better to do it hair shorter than have it longer, because you can always stretch it out a little bit, but if you've got too much, then you have a gather. Right. This is why you leave a nice big gap, because now I'm going to sew these together the same way we did our other strip. If you don't leave a big enough gap, this is a really fiddly part. I've done that many a time. Right, I'm going to pin this.
Even though you're not a pinner.
Even though I'm not a pinner. Because it just holds it in place while you're trying to manoeuvre it.
As a pin would.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 2 pins.
I'm not a pinner.
Dos pins.
foot. There we go. Yeah, so that looks like that. I'm just going to trim this bit off. And that. There. So then that gives you a nice finish. Just like that. And then you just finish sewing that edge. Make sure that's all nice and flat.
Maureen says, crikey, I'm going to have to watch that again.
Oh.
And Diamond says, and me. And Katie says, wow.
Yeah, my top part is wrinkling a little bit because it's not straight through. My walking foot isn't working the way it ought to. There we go. That's my top bit all done. So you can see, even though my top, my fabric on this side is has been a bit wrinkled and puckered in some places, my bottom one is nice and straight, and those puckers will just hide in the inside, so you don't have to worry about it. Just got tons and tons of threads. There. Oh, okay.
And that said, you made that look so easy.
Oh, yeah, that's finished. And then what I do, I have those, if you've got those clips, that's what I normally use. Those little plastic clips. Fold it over and then I'll clip it, and they're a godsend. I'll clip it along the edge while I'm sewing. But I'll pin this for now. Even though I'm not a pinner.
No, I could attest on this part. I've seen the clips.
I'll show you the corner. We'll go over a little bit, I'm afraid, but I'll show you the corner. I'm just going to clip this corner a tiny bit because it's a little bit fat. Just a tiny bit.
Kathleen says, thanks, that's really useful. Always struggle to get it to fit. We'll remember that it's width of the binding to leave next time.
Yep, and it just a hair under, so maybe a 1/16 of an inch short or so, just so you don't have it too baggy.
Joanne says, thank you so much, very informative. And Sheila,
Well, I'm just going to,
easy.
thanks,
Really
I'm just going to
informative.
show you sewing this corner. If everybody will just bear with me for a sec. I wouldn't recommend doing it with this, but this is the only needle I could find at short notice. So we're going to make it work.
Make it work.
Make it work, people.
Dawn says, Wonder Clips so helpful.
Yes, yes, that's the Wonder Clips. Come on. That's not going to cooperate. Actually, you know what? I think I might use this one instead. I think that will work. Use better thread.
Katie asked, do you sell wonder clips too?
I do. I have some clover ones. Yeah, there's some in there.
Diane asks, what is bottom line thread?
Oh.
Love clips for binding and everything else.
Yeah. Bottom line, I don't carry it, but you can get it at Barn Yarns. So bottom line and top line. Bottom line is a very fine polyester thread that people typically use in the bobbin, but I've used it on the top as well. It's really good for free motion quilting on the machine. I find it works really well anyway. But it's also, I like it for applique. So I'm just going to start here. I try to start a little bit inside and pull my needle up through where my stitching line is, so then I can hide my knot underneath the binding and go straight up through that. This is how I do it. So you don't have to do it like me, but this is just how I do it. So I'll go straight down and then stitch back there, up through the binding. Oh, got a knot. Yeah, sewing with a bent needle isn't the easiest. Oh, I should have used my wax. It wouldn't be so combative. Well, this is going to be my Saturday movie night job, it looks like, for tomorrow. Get that out. Almost there. Yeah, I always look on the other side just to make sure that I haven't gone through. Especially where you go over where it's quilted. It's easy to not just catch the back. Right. Hopefully we'll have a nice corner. There. I'm going to sew. Right, and I'm sewing it so that my it just covers my stitch line, so you don't see your stitch line. And I'm in the corner, so I'm going to take one stitch in place just to hold, or two, maybe two, just to hold that corner down, and then I find it easier to fold it over here and then attack the corner.
Diamond says, everybody sitting with bent heads, what, watching intently, or just me?
So I'd usually put a wonder clip there. I'm going to pin it so that gets that all done, and then I arrange that corner. So you've got a nice fold, and just fuss it until you've got it exactly how you want it. So I'm just going to move that over. Oh, this is where jacks come in really well, handy. There, that'll work. And then there you go. and I just leave it loose like that. You can do a few little stitches in here if you want to, if you want to maybe secure that down. But I usually just leave them loose. So that's your corner, and then you'll have a nice mitered corner on this side as well, because that's where we do the fold, so automatically. And yeah, if you leave that, when you fold it over, like I showed you, about 1/16 of an inch, you want to be able to see your raw edge along this side, underneath your fold, about 1/16 of an inch. That'll give you a nice mitered corner. If you do it any longer, if you put it over the edge a little bit longer, you won't get such a nice mitered corner. It'll be a little bit more out of shape. It's just practice. So yeah, so that's it. That is binding. Hopefully you found that useful. If you have any questions, send them to me. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend. Oh, where's my wine juice? And cheers, and stay safe. And I'll see you next week. If you have any recommendations that you want to see for next week, let me know, because I haven't planned what I'm going to do yet, so I'm still open for suggestions. And yeah, have a good weekend, and I'll see you later. See you next week. Bye.
Bye all.